He'll take pictures. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The meeting of the monthly board meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors on August 20th, 2021. And would the Supervisor Clary lead us in prayer, please?
Dear Father, please be with the many that are in harm's way, either by disease or fire, wind, water, or military. Please give them the help and care they need, and please guide them. Father, we thank you always for your many blessings. Help us all to be kind and calm and act in your guidance. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In case of fire or emergency, there's 3 exits in the room, there, and there. In case of such emergency, please proceed to the nearest doorway, find the nearest stairway. Go down the stairway, clear the building, so rescue squads and emergency squads can do their jobs. If you need assistance, please contact someone for help. Also, please silence your cell phones for this meeting. Thank you, Supervisor O'Brien. We will now do roll call, please.
Mr. Hankey.
Here.
Mrs. Fedler. Here. Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Haff.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Skelly.
Here.
Mr. Hogan. Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Clary. Here. Mr. Griffith.
Here.
Mr. Rosell.
Thank you. Okay, and we have a quorum. At this point in time, I'd like to ask Supervisor Ward to come forward for a presentation of a proclamation and for introduction of an individual and our chair of our agricultural committee, Cassie Fedler. Supervisor Fedler, would you come forward also? And can we also ask Katie, our dairy princess, to come up, please? She will speak after you. When you're done, we'll have her speak.
Okay. Proclamation from Washington County in recognition of Katie Lorman, 2021 Washington County Dairy Princess. Whereas Katie Lorman of the town of Greenwich has been selected Washington County Dairy Princess for 2021, and whereas Miss Elise Harrington of Salem, Miss Lauren DeSorb of Greenwich, Miss Sierra Hubert of Greenwich, and Caitlin McClay of Greenwich were selected as Ultimate Dairy Princesses. And whereas the Washington County Dairy Princess team provides education and promotion to the youth and consumers about the critical industry of Washington County, and whereas the purchase and consumption of many types of dairy products supports and enhances our economic viability of our dairy farmers. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors extends congratulations and best wishes to Ms. Larman on her selection as representative to the county dairy industry for 2021, and Ms. Harrington and Ms. DeSorb, Ms. Hebert, and Ms. Clay on their selection as alternative representatives, members of the Washington County Dairy Princess Committee, for the continuation in promoting this vital industry in Washington County.
Katie, here's a thing for Washington County, but you have a very strong background in dairy, and I have a great deal of respect and great job. I'm sure you're going to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Katie, would you like to step to the podium and say a few words, please?
I'll try to keep this short so you guys can get going on your meeting.
Sure.
But the dairy industry in all aspects is of an international importance. Due to the sudden drop of milk consumption of 40% within the last decade, dairy farms are beginning to collapse globally. Even though the consumption of milk plays a huge role in dairy farms starting to shut down, there's also another factor that takes a part in this as well, called supply and demand. With the crazy increase of the human population, along with the economy increasing many years ago, farmers had to keep up with the milk yields just to produce as enough as needed. Now with people not consuming as much milk, products are being left for the farmers to deal, which is the overcome and the overproduction of their milk. Hello and good morning. As most of you know, I'm Katie Warman, and I'm very pleased to be speaking here for our county. Dairy is the heart of our agricultural economy within our area. There are multiple different products that are very important for our own economy, like apples, maple syrup, beef, and so many more. All of these different types of produce help drive the businesses in all sorts, which will boost our economy and even help welcome more people coming into our very special community. When outside people decide to come in around our beautiful land, sites, and visits to events like farmers markets, it helps our businesses and farms prosper. As thousands of people pour in from places like New York City, it helps the farms sell their produce and even get their name out there. Farmers markets are placed throughout the entire county with so many options of produce, such as multiple types of dairy products. While all of these products are being sold, so much money is being generated within these markets and stores that helps the farmers be supported in their future. Even though farms are beginning to dwindle in size and despair across the country, our county is prospering with the dairy and the agricultural industry. The dairy industry has always dealt with having a bad name and a bad rep, and has always been struggling within many different areas across the world. But the industry in our own towns is held to a very high standard of importance. Our farmers will struggle with the milk market and the production of their products, but our community widely supports our farms with the obstacles that they will face. Dairy within our community is the main ingredient to what brings our farms closer to the table with our everyday consumers. After being selected as the Washington County Dairy Princess, it has opened up so many opportunities for me and my team to go out and to back our local farmers to help educate the people that may not understand the industry and why it needs to be supported. I have been told that a glass of milk is as American as apple pie, and that is the way I want our county to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you for all you do representing our farmers and the farm families here in Washington County. We appreciate it. The condensed minutes from the July 16, 2021 meeting are accepted as mailed unless there are any additions or corrections. Do we have any additions or corrections? Seeing none, they are accepted, and we'll move on to communications, please.
For communications, we received a copy of correspondence from a Vermont resident that rides his bike in Washington County, thanking the entire Public Works team for building and maintaining the best roads within 150 miles of North Bennington, Vermont. That's all I have for communications.
Thank you. At this point in time, we'd ask Tim Hardy to do a COVID-19 update, if he would, please.
Good morning. Just some updated statistics as of this week. We were hoping to be in a much different position than we were as we started at the end of last month. Things were starting to go in a different direction, and now we're back up to 60 active cases as of this morning. Still, we've only had the one confirmed Delta variant. However, those are not sequence tested on every sample that's submitted. Those go through Wadsworth, which is the state laboratory that is reporting back out on the Washington cases, the ones in our area. So as of now, and they're about 3 weeks behind, and they're only really testing or sequencing some of the most severe cases. So that's really a difficult number. Obviously, we know there are more Delta variant cases here that are actually reported to us just because of the sequence testing being so far behind, and not every sample is being tested. So 60 active cases, we're up to 3,017 total cases. Thankfully, only 4 new ones as of today, but that's fluctuated over the last week. And probably the other item most of note is that we're at 5 hospitalizations, which is 1 down, and 2 of those are in very serious condition. So certainly people are still getting sick. We're seeing complete household spread. A number of those cases that you're seeing on the map when we do the active case statistics by town, you take one town, for example, that may have 9 cases. Some of those are 5 people from 1 home. So it's not showing that there's widespread activity in a total town, but certainly it's blowing through entire households, which we've seen early on in this as well. The other thing as of this morning, so we have moved into the CDC high transmission area as of this morning. So those statistics are usually 2 to 3 days behind our actual statistics. So we knew eventually that would catch up to us. It was happening to all the counties around us. So implications wise, that's really still recommending masking in public areas, indoors, regardless of vaccination status. And it does have some other implications towards schools. When schools are back in session, that there are recommendations that schools have to do certain things or should not do certain things. Right now, State Ed has put out some guidance for the schools, and public health working with the schools are kind of trying to adhere to that or stay as close to that as possible. But as of right now, it's guidance or recommendations. There's no requirements from the state as of yet. Certainly, we know we're waiting for the new governor to take over to see if there are any additional things that are put into place. But as of right now, there has been nothing else. The schools are all still planning forward for full in-person for this year, which we know all of our kids need very much. So we're looking forward to that and helping the schools get to the finish line so we can get everybody back in school. There are a couple of projects our public health team are working on other than contact tracing, which they're back in full-fledged every day of the week, weekends included, with so many cases out there. And they are also working on the testing aspect that's coming into the school. So a new testing and screening protocol that we got some of that grant money for to go towards that. So we actually just sent a survey out to our school partners this morning on their vision, and it's actually up to each school how they do it, but certainly the county is looking to be a partner in that and be the conduit with the money and some support there. So just 2 other things. We do have a vaccination clinic coming up this Saturday at Hicks Orchard. So we are looking forward to that. And let me just confirm the times. It's 9 in the morning to 11 in the morning, and that's walk-ins for J&J. We'll be doing the second dose of the Pfizer that we did there the first time. And then in partnership with the fair, for attendees of the fair, we're going to do 2 clinics at the fair. That'll be Thursday from 11 to 6 and Saturday from 11 to 6. And we'll be doing the Pfizer and J&J. Walk-ins, no registration required. So anybody who's looking for vaccination, we'll be doing those ones coming up. And we're actually working with the schools again to do a second round of school clinics for those schools that want to participate. So I think that's all I have as of right now.
You need to be a resident at the fair.
You do not need to be, you need to be an attendee of the fair, so you need to be able to get into the fair, but you do not have to be a resident of the county. Public health will work with anybody who wants to get vaccinated and putting them in touch either with their own public health agency where they reside for that second dose, or putting them in touch with a pharmacy or doctor's office so they can get their second dose if they choose Pfizer.
I believe Supervisor Griffith had a question.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
Again, thank you to your team for your continued support and efforts. A lot of talk about boosters this week at the national level. Is there any information you can supply us in regards to locally?
Yeah, so we know it's coming. Obviously, the 3rd dose for the immunocompromised, which will be the same dose you received the first time. They're urging everybody to see your healthcare provider before you do that. There's no specific list that we have yet. There's lists that's been talked about of who's going to get it or what conditions are going to be eligible. They really want everybody to talk to their healthcare provider first before they go for that 3rd dose. Now, the boosters, on a separate note, that is coming. We're talking about late September that we're supposed to have guidance from the Department of Health on how that's going to roll out. So certainly County Public Health, our EMS vaccination team will be involved in that. We're just not quite sure what that looks like yet. We'll probably start very much like we started at the beginning of this, because I'm sure there will be a demand for that where we're doing a centrally located one until we're able to scale operations so we can move out into the communities again. But certainly as soon as we get that information and the guidance is updated from the state, we'll be putting something out on how we're going to be able to handle it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions of Tim? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Committee report. I'd like to move the audit report. We have a motion to move the audit report. Do we have a second? Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Clary.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Just a comment, we had 4 or 7 members there, and well over 1,000 vouchers to do. I want to commend them, they only missed 100% initially, none that I had to re-sign this morning, so they did a great job and a great pressure.
Very good. Yeah, and thank you everyone for showing up. We certainly appreciate that. Okay. Any more discussion? Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Supervisor's privilege of the floor. Any supervisors have any privilege of the floor? Anybody that had contacted you that you'd like to give the privilege of the floor to? Seeing none, we will move on to the introduction of resolutions. And we need a motion to set aside the rules of resolution number 175. Do we have a motion? Made by Supervisor O'Brien. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 175 by Supervisor Hall, title Resolution Authorizing the Assignment of Pipeline Easements from the County of Washington to Washington Land Associates LLC. Resolved that 1, the Board of Supervisors of the County of Washington, Washington County, New York, hereby authorizes the assignment of the pipeline easements together with the associated rights and obligations as set forth above to the Washington Land Associates LLC. 2, the specific object or purpose for this assignment is to ensure that the assignee therein be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of such pipeline and to release Washington County from any and all responsibility and liability for the same. 3, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors is hereby authorized to execute all transfer documents required to effectuate the purpose of the assignment in a form approved by the county attorney.
Thank you, Deb. Now we move on to the resolutions.
Resolution number 145 by Supervisor Skelly, Roselle, Campbell, Hicks, Fedler, Shaw, Ferguson, Wilson, title authorizing agreement between the County of Washington and the County of Warren for the removal of snow and salting sanding to control ice on paved Warren County roads for 2022.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution 145.
Moved by Supervisor Skelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Shaw, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Haft.
Every year, I bring this up and complain. The county does not apply any sand, but yet we're charging Warren County to remove sand. Does anybody know, does Washington County actually send a sweeper out to do this for $554 a mile? Do we actually do the labor? And if we are, what is it that we are removing? If it's just roadside aggregate, then maybe this resolution should be amended to say that, but we do not apply sand, but we're charging them to remove the sand we do not apply. I think with a little wordsmithing, this could end my complaints every year. Does anybody know, do we actually sweep the road?
I don't know. The only place I could think of that may come into play would be up on the Pilot Knob Road where Warren County runs into Washington County. But I don't know that to be factual. That's the only place I could think that it might be utilized.
Does anybody have a problem with if I make a motion to amend it to say to perform sweeping, picking up, and removal of, I don't know what, debris in the spring after winter plowing? Because it specifically says sand, but we do not apply sand. I don't even know if Washington County DPW purchases sand. Does anybody know that?
Do we know?
Don't know.
Does the town ever help out with the county in that area? I guess that would be my question.
Yes, they do.
If the town helps out in that area, they may have sand. That's what I just don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you that's what they apply. I know we have sand, but I couldn't tell you if they apply it there.
Yeah, and I don't know either.
Is there any harm in removing the word sand from the $554?
Just replacing it with debris is what you want.
Well, you don't want to be picking up tree limbs everywhere, but I don't know if you would call it just aggregate. I think salt is an aggregate if it's really, really cold. Doesn't melt.
Could
I don't know.
Using aggregate could open up
Right.
a lot of other stuff also. But
Yeah, the wording of this comes from Warren County. I hesitate to change it without discussion with them about our concerns in that regard. And I don't know if Debbie has had those discussions. But, this comes to us from Warren County, so, I really hate to change it because they're expecting something that looks exactly
Well,
like
I
this
think
to
if
come
we
back.
do not perform any sweeping, there's no harm because we're not gonna bill them if we don't actually do the job. But I just think this is very
I hesitate
old,
to-
obsolete language maybe.
I hesitate to say that we don't without somebody here that knows whether or not we do or not, so.
So what if we do this, what if we go ahead with this as it is? So this is your last year complaint, we will research it and come back with information for next year.
let's bring it to DPW.
Next year, okay.
No,
All right.
If we don't do it, we don't charge them $554 per mile either. Actually, it's $376.
Right.
So it's only if we do it. So if we don't do it, it's just a section that's unused.
So if this were to be amended and changed, Roger, you would suggest that Warren County would amend it and change it because this is the.
No, I suggest that we agree that that's to any changes so that we're
Because they were.
all on the same
We
page.
have to agree to the same contract.
yes. That's why I say they'll give us time, we.
Right, and they've passed
I know
theirs, so ours is contingent upon them, they've already passed this exact thing, so I'd hate to go back and change it at this point.
Because I imagine
Not discussing
quite a
it.
few years ago, we did apply, Washington County did apply sand and salt, and now we apply only salt. So is this wording not keeping up with the times? If we don't charge them, then it's just extra wording, it doesn't matter, but if we actually charge them for sweeping something that is not even there,
I'd really like to hope that we don't charge them for something we don't do.
well, I think in Washington County, don't the towns in the northern part do the sweeping for the county, or is that just mowing?
I'm not
What,
well enough acquainted.
Supervisor Wilson,
As far as I'm aware, it's just mowing,
it's mowing.
and we do apply sand, and there is overlap, so I know we sweep up, our roads, and, any portion of the county transitions between county roads and town roads, so we're cleaning up our mess, I guess. That's not contractual, all we contract with the county is mowing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 146 by Supervisors Clary, Campbell, Hicks, Ward, titled to make reappointments to the Workforce Development Board.
Chairman, moving resolution number 146,
Moved
please.
by Supervisor Clary, do we have seconds? Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Henke? Any others? Supervisor O'Brien? Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 147 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, county clerk.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution 147.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks, do we have a second? Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Henke. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 148 by Supervisors Clary, Hicks, Ward, Campbell, title exercise option year for public health transportation services 2021.
Chairman, please, moving resolution number 148.
Moved by Supervisor Clary, do we have a second? Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Henke. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 149 by Supervisors Skelly, Roselle, Campbell, Hicks, Fedler, Shaw, Ferguson, Wilson, title award mini bid for sheriff vehicles.
Moving resolution 149.
Moved by Supervisor Skelly, do we have a second? Second. Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Shaw, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward. Any discussion?
I can't possibly second one, purchasing Chevrolets.
Shove them out of
All right, that falls under the discussion part. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Resolution number 150 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, Department of Social Services.
Mr. Chairman, moving 150.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks, do we have a second? Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Resolution number 151 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, Department of Social Services, foster care unit expansion.
Mr. Chairman, moving 151.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks. Do we have a second, please? Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Henke. Is there any discussion? See none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 152 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, Sheriff Jail.
Mr. Chairman, moving 152.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks. Second, please. Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 153 by Supervisors Clary, Hicks, Ward, Campbell, title approved Tri-County Workforce Development Board budget for PY21.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 153.
Moved by Supervisor Clary. Do we have seconds, please? Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Campbell. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Half.
Is this fiscal year 21 or PY? What's P year 21?
Probably program year.
Program year, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 154 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Skelly, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, DPW.
Mr. Chairman, moving 154.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks. We have a second, please. Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Wilson, and Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 155 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Campbell, O'Brien, Skelly, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, public health for contact tracers.
Mr. Chairman, moving 155.
Moved by Supervisor Hicks. Seconds, Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Half.
How is it being done now? Do we contract out these services or is it not really being done now?
Being done in-house right now. We're doing contact tracing with our own people. They want to expand the pool of part-timers, they can call in to do it.
Okay, so in case there's an overflow need, that pool would be there?
Yeah, because it's, as it picks up, we need to do more contact tracing. And we did it this way at the height of the pandemic. So we're basically recalling people that we've already used.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 156 by Supervisors O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Fedler, title to approve and adopt Washington County smoke-free policy.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 156.
Moved by Supervisor O'Brien. Do we have any seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Half, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Did I miss anybody? Any questions, any comments, any concerns? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 157 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozelle, title to authorize the cancellation and exemption of a certain parcel located in the town of Jackson from taxation pursuant to real property tax law, Article 11.
Moving resolution 157.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Seconds. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Clary. Any further seconds? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 158 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title to cancel interest and penalties, Town of Fort Edward, multiple parcels.
Moving resolution 158.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have seconds, please? Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 159 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title to write-off taxes, Town of Granville.
Moving resolution 159.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 160 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend budget, Sewer District 2 for purchase of pumps.
Moving resolution number 161, or 160, I guess.
160, moved by Supervisor Campbell. Second, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Wilson, and Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 161 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend budget, mental health.
Moving resolution 161.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Seconds, please. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Any further seconds? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 162 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend budget, buildings and grounds to purchase Amish sheds.
Moving resolution number 162.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Seconds, please. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 163 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend budget, capital project number 125 for Vine Avenue roof engineering.
Moving resolution number 163.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have any seconds, please? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 164 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend DSS budget to recognize Federal CARES Emergency Solutions Grant Funds.
Moving resolution 164.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Half.
The ARPA money that a lot of us speak about, that falls underneath the CARES Act. Is this ARPA money or is this separate CARE money?
This is CARES money, ARPA money is rescue money.
Right, but ARPA money comes underneath the CARES Act. Because CARES is COVID something.
No, ARPA is American Relief Plan Act.
Right.
CARES Act.
CARES was the first one, rescue plan's the second one.
You don't think that the ARPA comes underneath the umbrella of the CARES Act? I think it does.
I thought it was the second act.
Right, so the answer is no.
Yeah, that's what we believe it to be, Danny, yes. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 165 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend DSS budget for Adult Protective Services Grant.
Moving 165.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 166 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title amend 2021 budget for increase in Hudson River, Black River assessment.
Moving resolution 166.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have seconds, please? Supervisor Clary. Okay. Is there any discussion? Yes. We'll start here and go around. Supervisor Henke.
Not only shouldn't this be increasing, we shouldn't be paying this at all. This is a completely inappropriate assessment for not only Washington County, but for all the other counties that are paying it. Foisted upon us by a couple of state and federal laws that we had no control over. If they wanted to get rid of assessment for them, then they should be paying the taxes. We shouldn't. I can't vote to increase this or pay it whatsoever.
Okay. Discussion, Supervisor Shaw.
I have two questions. One is, or 2 points to ask. One is, do we request a annual budget from them? Because anytime you pay out for this, by law, we can ask for a budget of their operations and review it.
They provide us a budget, but we don't have any control over what it is.
No, I didn't say control over, I said we have it to review.
Yeah, they show us how they spend their money.
And secondly, what happens if we follow Mr. Hinkey's lead and vote this down?
The Hudson River Black River District prints out a copy of the appellate division decision that from 5 years ago that said we are responsible for paying for it. And he makes a motion to hold us in contempt, and then we end up paying that plus the course costs.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Supervisor Campbell.
For years, I've tried to do away with this. I've been to Albany, Clifton Park, and we've had meetings everywhere trying to do away with this. And we aren't getting any traction because the people that are in power and the way they want to do it, I guess. I don't see this going away. I guess I feel fortunate that the increase was as small as it was, and we got 5 more years to fight on to see if we can squelch it before the next time. But as Roger said, the way it came down and the way we'd be prosecuted for it, we wouldn't gain a thing by not paying the bill. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's a legislative solution, as Brian said. There's a state law that allows them to do this assessment. We need to change that and either broaden the pool, no pun intended, of people that pay it, or you have the state pay those costs because it benefits the entire state, not just 5 counties.
Okay. Any further discussion? Supervisor Wilson.
No, I appreciate the conversation on this. And it was kind of like receiving the bill and disputing the bill ultimately will cost our taxpayers more money if we try to dispute it. So I will vote yes, but in protest.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. We got Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien. Okay. Motion's carried.
Resolution number 167 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title, create the title of Personnel Assistant, place on the grade schedule, and amend the staffing pattern, Personnel Department.
Moving 167.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. We have seconds. Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary. Any discussion? Okay, we will do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Henke.
Yes.
Mrs. Fedler.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Hicks.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Half.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Skelly.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mrs. Clary.
Yes.
Mr. Griffith.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted, 3,138 yes, 1,122 absent. Resolution number 168 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hack, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title, amend the title by grade schedule to establish pay rates for special patrol officers.
Moving 168.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have a second? Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Hack, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Hanky.
Is the reason the pay rates are all over the place because the local schools set them?
Yes, they're set by the contract. Is that correct, Roger? Contracts are set by the
I'm
schools.
looking at getting a thumbs up from the sheriff, so I'm gonna go
Okay.
yes.
Oh, I didn't see Jeff back there. Sorry, Sheriff, didn't see you back there.
Yes, it is. Some do more than others, special events and things like that.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call.
Oh, roll call. Got ahead of myself.
So close.
Mr. Hanky?
Yes.
Mrs. Fedler?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Hab?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Skelly?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Clary? Yes. Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
The resolution,
Maybe.
all right, was on 2/3. The resolution is adopted, 3,138 yes, 1,122 absent. Resolution number 169 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title, to approve COVID-19 surcharge amendment to Washington County preschool transportation contract.
Moving 169.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second by Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Do you have any discussion?
I have a question.
Supervisor Hack.
How does this relate to, was it resolution 148 about Durin?
148 was to renew the contract for another year and pay the escalator, which was set at CPI. This is to take that same contract and add a COVID surcharge to that rate that you set for extending it a year. The idea being that we don't bake the COVID cost into the rate so that it continues to escalate and that the COVID cost goes away. Hopefully once the need for a COVID cost goes away.
We're hoping it was gonna be done this year.
Right.
Thank you, Roger.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 170 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title to approve the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board 2022 budget.
Moving resolution 170.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. We have second. Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Hack.
Anyone asking today? Underneath the budget impact statement, the very last sentence, if maybe Dave can clarify, this amount is $171 more than 2021 or 2%. So that, does this say that this is $171 more than 2% increase?
No, it's just it's a 2% increase, period.
That is the 2%.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 171 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Half, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title, resolution in support of sharing agricultural mitigation fees collected by NYSERDA.
Moving resolution 171.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have a second? Supervisor Hanky, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Hack.
I read this, and although the words are very flowery and sounds good, my gut tells me there's a Trojan horse in this. And because recently the state changed where if you have a solar project that's larger than 20 megawatt, there is no local input. It's exempt from planning boards or anything like that. This refers to 30 acres. It says payment for certain proposed solar projects over 30 acres located in an ag district. My fear is the state is then gonna slide that 20 megawatt exemption for local input down to 30 acres. And Dan, you may know better than me, but I would estimate 30 acres might be 8 megawatts maybe. So are they gonna then slide down to where local input is no longer allowed for 30 acres? They're gonna go to the 30 acre number, not 20 megawatt? And also, the next to the last resolve says that payments will be shared with the county. Well, what payments? What are we gonna do with it? And how do we protect ag land if they're gonna put solar panels on ag land? So I think this all sounds good, but my gut tells me there's gonna be another shoe to drop because of this. I'm gonna have to vote no.
Supervisor Campbell, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I believe Mr. Half is probably onto something, and it's probably right, and it just could be mustard money to make, ag put up with it. There's something going on, I don't know what it is, but I'd be surprised if he's not accurate.
Supervisor Shaw, then we'll move on down to Supervisor Hooks. Yes, sir.
After what Dana said, the only thing I'm a little confused about, this is just us supporting, asking for a piece of the action, basically, is it not? Or is it saying that we're supporting what is coming down from, NYSERDA?
It's your payoff to support the action.
Well, yeah, but if we vote no, it's just what we're saying is we don't want a piece of the action.
They'll probably send it to you anyway.
So, I mean, I guess I don't understand the point is, I agree with what you're saying, I don't agree maybe with the reason for saying no. That's all. I'm trying to understand it, is all your approach. Do you think just by saying no that it might get more scrutiny and not be changed as far as the rules? Or are you saying
if more counties say no, maybe, but NYSERDA is their own authority. They're gonna do whatever they want.
This is the state's version of what Easton does with your solar.
Right.
Same idea.
Supervisor Hicks.
I'm gonna reiterate what I said in committee is it's all well and good, there's gonna be a amount coming to the county. But I'd like to see a little trickle down, because if the impact is in agricultural land in Jackson, it should pass through to Jackson, because Granville and Whitehall and Argyle don't have any impact when we lose agricultural land in Jackson. It's great the county gets the money, but it'd be great if that could be parsed down to the town that's actually feeling that impact. I don't know how that ever happened, but I think it's worth a discussion.
Supervisor Half.
I don't think anywhere here it talks about, because it says that any agricultural mitigation payments collected by NYSERDA, what are those fees? What are those payments? Are we talking 50 cents? Anybody know what the amount of, so we're buying a pig in a poke.
To be determined, that's really true.
Jay says 50 cents. I just think, I read this whole thing and my suspicion goes way out of sight.
With good reason.
So I think we should just vote no and see what happens.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry, didn't see your hands. I'm sorry, Jack.
I agree with Dana, it's probably just a feel-good thing, but if there is some money coming down through, we ought to be in on it. But it's basically nicer to throw a bone to the agricultural community.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I read this as being an acknowledgement of a program we have no control over, and that we were just gonna, resolve to, whatever we, the acknowledgement of the program and whatever proceeds come from that program, a reasonable, accounting for those proceeds, and then a plan to use them to comment about, should it go to the local community, or could the county retain it? How do we do that? So that's how I kind of read this. It's one of those things where, we're not going to stop it. So a vote yes doesn't necessarily agree with it. I think a vote yes just says, okay, it's coming. And when it comes, we'll kind of figure it out from there. But we don't have enough detail into the fidelity of the dollar value or whatever NYSERDA decides to add to it later on.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Supervisor Haff. Carried.
Resolution number 172 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Haff, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal and state Marchicelli program aid eligible cost of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore CR 61 Shushan over Battenkill, towns of Jackson and Salem.
Moving 172.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 173 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Haff, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title authorizing and approving a settlement to an action relating to the opioid crisis, J&J.
Moving resolution 173.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Do we have second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Haff, Supervisor Wilson, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 174 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Haff, Hicks, Skelly, Clary, Ward, Rozell, title authorizing and approving a settlement relating to a lawsuit against Washington County, index number 29731.
Moving resolution 174.
Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Clary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 175 by Supervisor Hall, title a resolution authorizing the assignment of pipeline easements from the County of Washington to the Washington Land Associates LLC.
I move that. Do we have a second? Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Fisher, Supervisor Haff, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Henke. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Henke.
I did not get this in time to really dig into the deed things. Does this include easements through what is now county property?
Yes, this is the whole thing.
Okay. So it's right from the pond on Route 40 right to the lake.
No, we haven't granted them, because we haven't gotten rid of the land yet, but we're gonna give them an additional easement across our land for their pipe as well.
Yeah, you are giving, but that easement is in here.
Let me check the descriptions. It may not be.
Because that was the most important part to me, was getting that easement through the county land done.
Yeah, no, this is another step. This assigns our current easements, and I don't think the pipeline was.
No, there was nothing, there's no easements through county
across
property
our
right
land,
now.
right? So we're gonna have to, at some point, grant them a separate easement across that for their remaining part.
Can we include that in the resolution, or?
We don't have a description
You
of
gotta
it.
come back.
Yeah.
Gotta come back with a description of it. This is a huge step getting them to acknowledge that they want.
This is a big step. I'm not diminishing. I just wondered if we did.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, because the description is based on the other easements that have been granted to all these other people. I don't think there's a description of, because we haven't recorded an easement from ourselves to them.
Right.
We wouldn't have originally had one recorded from ourselves to ourselves.
Supervisor Haff.
So what you're saying is, at the lake, the 12 acres or whatever it is that the county owns where all the wells are.
Right.
This easement starts where our land ends.
All it does, doesn't do anything. It assigns what we have currently to them, but it doesn't, the things we have from other people to them,
Right.
but it doesn't assign what we have to them.
Okay.
So that's an additional step, I believe, that's gonna have to be done.
And also it says that this goes to the Alms House, but it ends at the little pond next to Route 40, doesn't it? That's what that pipeline feeds, is that pond, which then feeds the water sprinkler?
Right. But that's on the Alms House property,
Oh, okay.
that they own the pond.
Right, so to continue, I think Shaw should be co-sponsor of this, thanks to Dan and his persistence on it, that this is moving. But the next piece after this is the county-owned property where the wells are. So once this is approved, that makes it easier for us to address that property.
Well, there's two ways of doing that. So one is, and Bob, I've got a nice piece of land I'd like you to buy from me. If I'm gonna sell it to Bob, then I'm gonna sell it to Bob and accept an easement that I'm gonna give to Centers. If I'm not gonna sell it to somebody else, then I'm going to just give Centers a deeded easement so that when I do sell it, it's already on file. So you can either do it, if a sale of the property is imminent, you would do it all at once. If a sale of the property is not imminent, you would do a separate easement just in favor of Centers, and then when the property is eventually sold, that easement would already be on record.
We get rid of real property, doesn't it? It must go by auction, or can we deed it over to another municipality and not go to auction?
And municipalities are different if it's a private person that has to go through auction, but there's a provision that you can go through and sell to municipalities for.
I think
without
that. Dan, thank you for being persistent, and I hope you continue on the Summit Lake parcel.
And I'd like to thank Danny for calling me Dan. In the beginning, he called me Shaw. I like this better.
Well, you want to put Shaw right here.
Shaw is the name that would be if you're a co-sponsor, not Dan.
That's why.
What the next name he calls you is?
Well, I'd like to thank, Bob for bringing it up, that there's gonna be a part two, because in the spirit of Dan, we don't wanna shoot the thing before the time. At least we know round two's coming.
And we will add Supervisor Shaw as a co-sponsor to that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, welcome.
Let's put Dan.
Wound today or something?
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We now move to supervisors' comments, and to start off with, I would like to ask our Director of Real Property, Lauren Chadwick, to make an announcement she has here for the supervisors.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I'm passing around, if everybody can pick one, pass it around. These are the residential data mailers that are going out to 6 towns in Washington County. It covers 7,739 parcels. So maybe your town is not in the reval, you will know people that will be affected by this. So what you're seeing is a sample, what you're seeing is a letter, and on the back is a sample of a parcel in the town of Dresden. Like I said, the 6 towns that are in the reval, the people are instructed to complete the form, and it's gonna be 2 pages when they get it. Complete the form and return it, the survey, and if they have any questions, there's a number on there. It's not your assessor's number, it is GAR, the appraisal company. So GAR should be receiving any phone calls regarding these. They have all the inventory, they have all the information. Your assessors, majority of the assessors attended a meeting not too long ago where these letters were all discussed. So I just wanted to, because government ops is gonna be a little bit later, after Fair Week and whatnot, I wanted to get it out there so that everybody knew that these were in the mail. They'll be either going out later this afternoon or Monday morning. So just heads up, and like I said, if it doesn't affect your town, you know, you may know somebody that is, and there may be questions, and with Fair Week coming up and everybody seeing everybody out and about, just wanted to put it out there. So everybody has some information on that. If you have any other general questions regarding the reval, please just contact me. You all know where I'm at any time, and I can answer anything. But for your landowners, they should be replying directly to GAR, not to the town's town assessors. And on the NYSERDA side, yeah, there will probably be more to come on that, because NYSERDA is part of the people coming to the table that are gonna start valuing these solar projects in the future. They've set, starting with the 2022 supposedly assessment rolls, NYSERDA there's some assessors, some county directors, some people from the solar companies are all getting together to try to value these solar projects in the future. And those solar values that are being established by this group will be the numbers your assessors will have to use on the assessment rolls going forward. So, well, yes, there is more to come on that. Just wanted to kind of give you that point of view too. Okay.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Laura.
Thanks,
Laura.
Thank you.
Now, do any supervisors have comments? Supervisor Shaw.
I'd just like to announce that the Washington County Fair starts this coming Monday. The grand opening is at 1:00 on Monday, and you're all invited. And I hope to see everybody at the fair.
Thank you, Dan.
Just to clarify, it's the opening ceremonies are at 1, but the fair doesn't open till 5.
Yes, that's what the website says, is 5.
I know that.
Okay. No, but 1:00 is the ceremony to open it, yes. Supervisor Henke.
Two things. The first one, sad, we had our second serious aviation crash in the town of Argyle this summer. This one, we had 2 Argyle residents lose their life. One of them left 2 children with the 2 children had 2 different fathers, so one of them was a complete orphan at this point. And the other is going off with family somewhere. It's a very tragic sort of a thing where our hearts go out to that particular family. They've taken some real blows here in the past few years, and this was kind of the penultimate one. Secondly, on a more happier note, I did introduce to you the last time the concept of Thistle Days. We are holding Thistle Days in the town of Argyle on September 18th. There will be a parade. There will be a crafts fair. There will be live music afterwards in the afternoon. The firemen are doing a barbecue, which is by reservation only. You call in and get your chicken and drive through. The Legion is doing a pulled pork thing. There'll be a crafts fair at the Legion with, I think there's 7 or 8 vendors already in there. And then there will be fireworks at dusk, shooting them off from the hill owned by the Lufkins, actually. So we would certainly invite you all to come. That'll be September 18th. Parade starts at 2:00 and fireworks start at dusk, which will probably be around 8:30.
Supervisor Campbell.
Will the second round of fireworks be at the Highlander immediately after the first set of fireworks? Or?
It depends on if anybody drives in the pond or not.
And on another note, we're kind of half speed in Hebron right now. Our town clerk took a bad spill and she broke her ankle. Is in right next door here in Fort Hudson in rehab for a while. So if you're expecting to get anything from our town clerk, you might want to pause for a while because it's we're moving rather slowly in that area.
You played that ball, you could do the job.
I am doing the job, part of it.
Supervisor.
Private deputy.
We're going through a small claims review process on assessments. And what we're doing, whoever the adjudicator on ours is doing it by email. And I don't think it's fair to conduct an assessment hearing by email back and forth. It's very cumbersome. A lot of the points gets missed, and I know you can't do a trial by email. And in the future, however we contract these out, I think we should require that the adjudicators do them in person unless there's COVID-19 or another situation. But it's been a very cumbersome process. There's a back and forth. A lot of the points are missed. A lot of the questions are missed that would occur when you have a dialogue. So I think it's not an efficient way to conduct a review of assessed values.
Thank you. Supervisor O'Brien.
So after receiving the census news, where our residents went down, we also had a very sad month. We lost 6 residents, all the way ranging from a 32-year-old who was killed by a dumpster falling on him, to a gentleman who went over his handlebars on his motorcycle. Very tragic. To one of the longest residents in Hampton. So it was a very sad month, but I've never seen that many deaths. We generally only have 6 deaths a year.
Supervisor Clary.
I want to follow up on Supervisor Campbell's note. I am amazed at the amount of support and care, and thank you, Sandy. I give thanks to Pat Gilchrist. I give thanks to the people that have kind of come around. Dorothy Worthington, who is my aunt and town clerk of Hebron. And if you want to figure out how small communities work, I can't quite figure out how she dictates from her room over at Fort Hudson, and she's somehow still doing her job. And so I get a kick out of the community's support, and they can still get death certificates done. They can still get these things done that are very unusual and hard to do. But the small communities do work together in all strange ways.
Supervisor Hicks.
I want to thank Al for his report last Thursday. Since then, he put me in contact with the accounting outfit, the auditing outfit that he uses out in the western part of the state. We provided them initial information, and subsequently have signed to do the same thing for Granville as we did with the county. We had no idea. It's a significant amount of money that we had no clue was eligible to us. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all to touch base with Al and send an email, at least an email to this company. It's worth it. It's a small price to pay. The return on what we're going to pay is going to be staggering. So it's an amazing thing.
And I had contact with that company, and they're very good explaining it, going through it. And at our next board meeting, I'll make a proposal to use them, because the way I explained it, there's so many different ways to do it, the calculation, and I just did a quick overview, and it was much more than I thought.
Way more than
a lot. Yeah.
Supervisor Campbell.
Matt, how were they compared to what they charge the county? Was it?
It's a flat fee for no matter who it is. You could be a 1,000 person
$2,000
building or a 10 million person company. It's $2,000 flat.
But what you don't miss is well worth it.
It's cheap insurance that when you're all done, you can submit this to the feds to verify the amount of money you took from ARPA for your.
Thank you.
What they asked for was 2016 to 21.
AUDs.
Yeah, AUDs.
And $2,000 and it's done. Perfect. Make note of that, Sandy.
Supervisor Hathaway.
What Matt says is true. Town of Granville, Town of Hartford, we use the same person that does our books, and as you all know, Hartford's a very well-run town, and our amount is about 52,000. Small amount compared to the rest of you, but it's worth spending 2,000 to get 52,000. Isn't that right? Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other comments? Okay, before we adjourn, I'm sorry to miss somebody. Sorry.
I'm curious about the census, and I don't know if this is, the census that came through and showed the loss in population. And then you look at the graph that showed the amount of census that were actually completed. And do they take in consideration the amount of people that are not counted, and whether they're not counted because of the COVID-19, whether they just didn't submit? I think the county could take a real hit on lack of return on census. Is there a way to understand how many, what the population loss really could have been, or is that already formulated in?
I think that Laura was going to explain that at the next Ag Committee meeting. Now that she had got the numbers to, she just kind of put those out there for us to take a look at.
Yeah.
And to come up with the questions and ask her.
Okay.
That she can explain it to us. She's not here today to do that, obviously, but
yeah.
Then we can put a list of questions together. She can be prepared to answer at the next Ag meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay, in closing, what I would like us to do is, if we have a member of our Board of Supervisors whose brother is deceased, who's no longer with us. Paul's not here today, and I would like us just to take a moment of silence and help Paul get through his time of tragedy here, if we would, please. Thank you, and if there's nothing else to come before this meeting, we will stand adjourned. Be safe, everybody. Thank you.